The story often begins with a quiet assumption that sits in the background of millions of financial plans. You work, you contribute through payroll taxes, and one day a government benefit helps support retirement. For decades, Social Security has represented stability, not because people understood every detail of how it functions, but because it has always existed within living memory. Yet as conversations about the year 2036 become more common, many people find themselves asking an uncomfortable question. What happens when a system designed for one demographic reality collides with a very different one? Part of the confusion comes from the way Social Security is commonly imagined. Many people picture a giant vault containing their personal contributions, waiting patiently for the day they retire. In reality, the system operates much more like a transfer mechanism between generations. The payroll taxes collected from today's workforce help finance benefits for today's retirees, while reserve funds help smooth the difference between incoming revenue and outgoing obligations. This arrangement worked effectively during periods when the ratio of workers to beneficiaries remained relatively high, but demographic changes have gradually altered that balance. When Social Security was established in the 1930s, life expectancy was lower, birth rates were higher, and the structure of the labor force looked very different from what it does today. A relatively large base of workers supported a comparatively smaller population of retirees. Over time, advances in healthcare extended lifespans, fertility rates declined, and the large baby boomer generation began transitioning into retirement. None of these developments are inherently negative. In fact, many reflect social progress. However, they collectively create arithmetic pressures that policymakers cannot ignore indefinitely. This is where the conversation surrounding 2036 often becomes distorted. Headlines sometimes imply that Social Security will simply vanish or cease to exist altogether. The reality is more nuanced and, in some ways, more revealing. Current projections suggest that if no legislative adjustments occur, the reserves supporting scheduled benefits could become depleted during the mid-2030s. Yet depletion does not mean elimination. Payroll taxes would continue flowing into the system, meaning benefits would likely continue, though potentially at reduced levels relative to currently scheduled amounts. The mathematics involved are not especially dramatic, but they are powerful. Imagine a household consistently spending more than its monthly income while relying on savings to bridge the gap. For a period of time, the arrangement functions adequately. Eventually, however, the savings reserve shrinks, forcing difficult choices. Increase income, reduce expenses, restructure commitments, or some combination of all three. National retirement systems face similar constraints, though the political, ethical, and economic considerations involved make the solutions substantially more complicated. Beyond the numbers lies an equally important psychological dimension. Financial systems influence behavior not only through the resources they provide, but through the expectations they create. If people assume future benefits will remain unchanged, they may save differently, retire differently, or structure their careers differently. Conversely, if they believe no support will exist at all, they may experience anxiety that influences consumption, investment decisions, and long-term planning. Human beings rarely respond to objective conditions alone. We respond to our perceptions of those conditions, and perceptions can shift rapidly when uncertainty enters the picture. Perhaps the most useful perspective is neither blind confidence nor absolute pessimism. It is recognition that uncertainty itself is a factor worth planning around. Financial resilience often emerges not from predicting the future perfectly, but from maintaining flexibility in the face of multiple possible outcomes. Individuals cannot control demographic trends or legislative decisions, but they can influence the habits and systems operating within their own lives. This identity shift may be the most important lesson embedded within the broader Social Security conversation. Instead of viewing retirement security as a single destination funded by a single mechanism, it becomes possible to think in terms of layers. Public benefits may represent one layer, personal savings may represent another. Continued part-time work, family support structures, healthcare planning, and lifestyle choices can each contribute additional layers of resilience. The objective is not to eliminate uncertainty entirely, because no economic system offers that guarantee. The objective is to reduce vulnerability to any single point of failure. The year 2036, therefore, represents something larger than a date on a projection chart. It symbolizes the moment when abstract demographic trends become concrete public discussions. It invites questions about intergenerational responsibility, the sustainability of social contracts, and the assumptions that quietly shape financial behavior. Most importantly, it reminds us that economics is ultimately about people. Behind every statistic lies a decision, a trade-off, a hope for stability, and a desire for dignity in later life.